My name is David Ditchfield, and in 2006, I went through an experience that completely changed my life. It all began at a train station in Cambridge on a cold February day. The sky was clear, but the air was biting cold. I was seeing off a friend and helping him board the train. Just as I stepped back to give him one last hug and kiss goodbye, the automatic door alarm went off. I tried to pull away quickly, but to my horror, a part of my coat got caught in the closing door. Despite my struggles, I couldn't free myself. The coat felt like a heavy trap I couldn't break free from. In desperation, I shouted for help, but at that moment there was no one nearby. I pounded on the glass door, but it was no use. The train was starting to move, and I saw the fear in my friend's eyes from the other side. At that moment, I thought it was the end. If the train left with my coat, I wouldn't survive. The train sped up, and I felt every change in velocity as I was dragged helplessly. I lost my balance and was thrown onto the tracks, ending up trapped between the train and the platform. I fell under the wheels, like being caught in a huge, brutal machine, thrashing and crushing me mercilessly. The feeling was terrifying, like being inside a washing machine on the spin cycle, but with endless violence and pain. My body instinctively switched to survival mode. I decided to fight and refused to give up. Throughout this terrifying ordeal, I stayed fully conscious and was tossed between the tracks while the train kept rolling over me. I remember thinking it wasn't over yet. I pressed my face into the gravel until the train finally disappeared into the distance. I lay there in shock, amazed to still be alive. The pain was unbearable, and the coat I was wearing. The zippers had been torn apart. Look at my arm. I was badly injured, with my internal organs exposed. My first thought was that I needed help. I reached for my phone to call for assistance, but it was completely destroyed. The rescuers arrived quickly and jumped onto the tracks to pull me out. They started cutting my clothes, carefully lifting me off the stretcher and loading me into the ambulance. During the ride, I remember the doctor saying that we had just passed a small nearby hospital, but to save my life, we needed to get to a larger hospital about 25 minutes away. Yes, hold on, I thought to myself. I'll try to hang in there as we sped down the highway with the sirens blaring. It took some time to reach the hospital. When the medical teams arrived, they were already in action. There was a lot of commotion, doctors speaking rapidly, but I couldn't catch what they were saying. I knew it was all technical, but I could hear the tension in their voices, and I realized my battle wasn't over because I felt the blood flowing through my body, a loss that was making me weaker. The medical team did their best. I remember clearly the lead surgeon, who seemed calm amid the chaos. He came over and said, "David, we need to take you to surgery immediately, but your family is here. Do you want to see them first?" I nodded yes, of course. Shortly after, my friend Emily, who had been with me at the station, entered the emergency room. Seeing her was such a relief because I needed that connection in that moment. I knew she had gone through the same shock, and I wanted to say something to her. She came close, and I could see the impact of everything on her face. She was pale, shocked, shaking her head in disbelief. Then she said to me, "I can't believe you're still here." They used a megaphone to announce my death. I simply responded that I was aware of it. Amid the confusion, I asked someone nearby if they were okay. They replied, "I think so." At that moment, a deep relief washed over me. I began to feel that my body was detaching from all the chaos of the hospital. The noise and commotion gradually faded, and the pain I felt slowly disappeared. I became aware that I was in a small dark space, but soon I realized it wasn't complete darkness, as I was surrounded by a soft light in shades of green, yellow, and red. This color palette brought me a sense of peace, and I quickly understood that I hadn't survived, that I was probably dead. The acceptance was immediate. I didn't try to struggle or resist. I understand that many people who have had near-death experiences feel resistance, especially those with young children or heavy responsibilities. I didn't want to die, but after everything I had been through, I felt a strange peace as I let go. I lay down, or at least that's what I thought, on an immense rock that looked like a granite monument. I was intrigued because such a material should be cold and unwelcoming, yet I felt incredibly comfortable and at peace. I looked at my body and noticed there were no more injuries. It was wrapped in a blue satin cloth like a soft cape, giving me a deep sense of calm. No cuts, no scrapes, no bruises. My body seemed whole, which brought me great comfort. I rested my head against the rock and closed my eyes, completely surrendering. As I closed my eyes, a dazzling light began to shine through my eyelids, so intense it seemed impossible to ignore it. I opened my eyes and saw just above me a symmetrical structure of white light slowly descending towards me. The light was so bright that under normal circumstances, I wouldn't have been able to look directly at it, like looking at the sun, yet strangely, I could without discomfort. There was something special about this light that drew me in. It seemed not only to shine, but also to radiate a powerful healing energy. I felt an energy, a healing presence directed straight at me. I closed my eyes again and let this light surround me, feeling that I was healing not only from the physical injuries my body had endured, but also from my emotional pain. It was a strangely beautiful experience, and at the same time, I felt no fear. Suddenly, I sensed someone nearby. I opened my eyes and looked up, seeing an enigmatic figure in the distance. It was a man with an androgynous appearance, wearing an elegant black shirt with platinum blonde hair and skin that seemed to glow with light. When I saw him, I was convinced I already knew him, even though I couldn't remember from where. I looked him straight in the eyes and asked aloud, "I know you, but from where?" He simply smiled at me knowingly, without saying a word. Instead, I felt a kind of telepathic communication between us. I quickly understood that this man was like a guardian angel, there to ensure that everything that followed was under his protection. This certainty gave me an immense sense of security, knowing he was watching over me. I felt calm and at peace again. I leaned my head back and closed my eyes. It was then that I sensed the presence of two other entities, one on each side. When I opened my eyes, I saw two feminine silhouettes, their hands hovering above my body, moving slowly, as if channeling healing energy along every contour and line. I closed my eyes again, and immediately, a flow of energy radiated from their hands. It was as if every cell in my body vibrated at the frequency of pure love, an unconditional and powerful love emanating from the palms of the two figures. This healing energy transcended physical pain, as if it were penetrating the deepest sufferings and emotional memories I had endured. I felt it strip away each layer, one by one, until it reached what I perceive as the purest essence of my soul. It was liberating. For the first time I felt truly free, freer than I had ever been before. I felt whole, and I realized I was finally in touch with my true identity, the real David, free from the weight of guilt, shame, or pain. A sense of peace and unparalleled integrity filled me. Then my thoughts turned to my family, and I recalled the image of my mother crying by my side in the hospital. The shock and fear she must have felt as well. After all, I had been struck by a train, and this had deeply marked her. I tried to think about it and look down, perhaps hoping to see them, but what appeared before me was a breathtaking sight. A vast waterfall of orange stars, a cosmic cascade as grand as Niagara, formed by billions of shining stars in motion and falling meteors streaking across the space above me. I was captivated by its splendor. As I focused on it, I could distinguish the different shades of stars and nebulae, as if I were exploring the entire galaxy in all its complexity. What I had never imagined was how the universe, which I had always thought of as a two-dimensional plane in the night sky, was now all around me in its infinite scale. Not only could I see it, but I could sense the universe pulsating with a powerful energy. A force enveloped me and seemed to guide me. I felt completely at ease, letting myself be carried by this energy, immersing myself in a profound sense of well-being. I rested my head on a large rock and once again accepted that I was an important part of this force and its indescribable beauty. At that moment, a new energy began to vibrate within me, even more intense now. It was as if the love I felt was growing stronger. I wondered what was happening. I lifted my head and opened my eyes. Right behind the spot where the man had been, looking toward that tunnel of white light, I saw a huge tunnel of light approaching. I was drawn to a deep understanding. What I was seeing was the source of all creation, God. This was not the God of the images and descriptions in books or the paintings like those of Alexander on the Vatican's dome. The energy of God was a vast tunnel of white light, radiating a power and love that surpassed any idea I had ever had of the divine. The energy emitting this light was so beautiful and liberating that I began to laugh, completely immersed in the euphoria of that moment. I tilted my head back, fully absorbed in that feeling, but suddenly, in an instant, I was pulled back into my body by a tremendous force. I returned to the hospital, and the beautiful light I had seen was replaced by the cold glare of fluorescent lamps that seemed harshly bright. The noise around me was deafening, and sharp sounds pierced my ears as the pain began to spread throughout my entire body. Looking around, I spotted my friend Emily and my family. I turned to Emily with a childlike urgency, telling her that something truly important had just happened. My expression was serious and concerned. She responded by placing a hand over her mouth, saying, "Not now, you can tell me later." But I was bursting with energy, eager to tell her that it wasn't something insignificant. She tried to calm me down, suggesting that I should explain it later, David. Shortly after, the doctor took me to the operating room. I was put into a coma around 8:30. And when I finally woke up, I found myself alone in a dark hospital room. Next to my bed, a machine emitted irregular beeps, almost like a little robot. Gradually, I became aware of the gravity of what had happened. I had been hit by a train and survived unimaginable experiences. However, as intense as the shock was, my mind remained focused on the experience I had just lived through. My body seemed connected to God's realm, where I had glimpsed what awaited me. At that moment, I knew nothing about near-death experiences. I thought it was something unique that had never happened to me before. A sense of urgency welled up inside me. I felt the need to share my experience. I wondered how to preserve this memory, and more importantly, how to convey it to others. That's when the idea came to me to draw the entire experience, capturing every detail in a work of art. I decided the painting needed to be magnificent and dramatic, like the great biblical scenes painted by Alexander. Although I had no experience in this area, I knew I had to do it, and that determination was unstoppable. After I was discharged from the hospital, while recovering at my sister's house, I couldn't think of anything else. I asked her to buy a large piece of fabric to hang on the wall of my room and to wait for the perfect moment to start. As my healing progressed, my passion for painting continued to grow, but only when I felt strong enough. I even started this project with some hesitation because I had no formal training and doubted my ability to capture everything I wanted. However, as I began to master the greens, reds, blues, and yellows on the canvas, something amazing happened. The skin tones and shades of the image came to life, taking shape and depth in ways I never expected. At that moment, I clearly felt a guiding presence. There was a connection to another realm, as if an energy cord was linking me to it, supporting and inspiring every brushstroke. It took me several weeks to complete the painting, and each day my fascination grew. Looking up at the sky, I expressed my gratitude. God, thank you for all this help. I am convinced that this creation is not just the result of my work, but a flow of a higher force moving through me. But it didn't end there. I realized I needed to understand what I had experienced. I began attending the local spirit church to explore spiritual healing, searching for answers about the depth of my experience. I knew there was a spirit church in the town where my sister lived, so I decided to go there, hoping to find some insight. When I arrived, the spiritual community seemed aware of my experience. They asked me, "David, have you ever had a near-death experience?" It was the first time anyone had used that term to describe what I'd been through, and they gave me further explanations about its meaning. They also offered psychological treatment to help heal my arm, which was still badly injured. I immediately accepted and asked when we could begin. That's when someone mentioned seeing a blue light of healing energy pass through me, saying I was well protected. Then they started sharing strange things. We listened to music, and it manifested through you. A violin appeared on your chest. What does that mean? Surprised, I said I didn't know. At that moment, one of them said, "It's asking you to write a musical piece about your experience." That struck me, but at the same time it inspired me. I returned home and went up to the attic, where I found an old Spanish synthesizer. I also grabbed my father's old tape recorder and began experimenting with some melodies, even though I barely knew how to play. Suddenly, a beautiful melody came to me. It felt like it had been passed down to me. I was watching a movie on TV while listening to music when I thought it sounded amazing, so I hurried to record it. I felt as if I were being guided, as though someone was helping me. As the music started to take shape, I realized it wasn't just a piece, it was something much bigger. "For the orchestra to play, you need sheet music," he said. I told him I didn't know how to write music. He said he would give me an old laptop with a composing app and a keyboard. I just needed to try playing my ideas on the keyboard, and the app would turn them into sheet music. With this tool, I could finally prepare the scores for the orchestra. When the orchestra agreed to perform the piece, the local press took notice. During a phone call, the journalist asked, "Wait, you're the kid who got hit by the train, right?" I said yes, and he immediately said it would make a great story. The news spread quickly, and soon the BBC contacted Noah to cover the concert. The tickets for the premiere sold out fast. The first performance was enchanting. The complete silence that filled the hall before the first notes created an indescribable atmosphere, a sense of reverence. I looked around and thought it was amazing that more and more people would get to experience this and everything it represents through music. It was my first work inspired by my near-death experience, titled Divine Light. I remember sitting in the front row with my family, listening to every note without any anxiety, convinced that everything was falling perfectly into place. The beauty was indescribable as I listened to the original chords created on that old synthesizer, now projected in 3 dimensions. The feeling I had listening to those chords was incredible, especially with the conductor on the podium. It was as if I wasn't the only one weaving this masterpiece. When the last note faded into the air, the room erupted in enthusiastic applause. Embracing my mother, I realized she was overwhelmed, shedding tears. But this time, they were tears of pure joy. Then, my sister caught my eye, and David looked back at me. When I turned around, I saw the audience on their feet cheering, many clearly delighted by the moment. It was an extraordinary experience. Other orchestras began reaching out to me, asking me to compose new pieces. This motivated me to pursue my passion for both music and painting. Over time, I wanted to share everything I had experienced in a different way, and that day when I recounted my story took on a new meaning. I began writing my story, despite my dyslexia and the fact that I had left school without much success. Friends and family encouraged me to document what I had been through. At the same time, a distant friend living in Scotland, who already knew my story, asked me when I planned to start writing. I replied that I didn't know where to begin because of my struggles with writing. She then suggested we write together, drawing on her experience in medical writing. I gratefully accepted. So we started drafting this book with the hope of self-publishing it. However, shortly before it was due to come out, a publisher showed interest and decided to move forward with publishing it. That's how the book Brilla was published just before the pandemic began, and I feared I wouldn't get the chance to promote it in person. Nevertheless, interviews and podcasts soon followed, and the audience for my story grew far beyond the UK, reaching the United States and the rest of the world. Over time, I realized my voice had become a way to extend the message beyond art and music. It became a testament to the importance of living in the present moment. When I think back to that kingdom resting on the rocks, I understand that I had always lived tied down by my past, mourning my mistakes and missed chances, or hoping for the future in hopes of guessing where my life would go. Yet, in this kingdom, there is no sense of time. The present moment is the only real one. Since then, I've learned that living fully in the present brings peace and wholeness. It's the most important lesson I've taken from this experience. It was my day, a life-changing experience that taught me the value of living here and now. I share this story with you as a way to thank you for your support because of the connection I feel with each of you listening. If this message resonates with you and you want to find similar content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hit the notification bell. With your help, we can spread a message of hope and transformation to even more people. I sincerely thank you for being here and sharing this day with me.